Yes, you're a good little boy, aren't you? Yes. Mm. Oh, hello. Thanks for joining us. I finally got me one of those silver death balls. And because I am a master of effects, watch this. I was supposed to float. Can we get it to float? We can't. You should have told me that beforehand. There's nobody there. I am the only effects person here. Phantasm 2. Phantasm 2. Phantasm 2. There's effects for you. It switched hands. Oh, you didn't see that, did you? Anyway, I'm going to have a lot of fun with this. Anyway, 9 years later, 9 years after Phantasm, we finally get the second chapter in the series. And it's probably my least favorite of the series. But it's an important one because it gets a lot of things that continue on with the series. This review is going to be more of a step-by-step review. Ooh, baby! Just because it's a sequel, everybody wants to see the first Phantasm. You never go, hey, let's just watch Phantasm 2, which is funny because Phantasm 2 was at least the trailer is what got me interested in the Phantasm movies. I was a kid, probably eight or nine, eight. I think it was 8. And the trailer came on some sort of thing my parents were watching, and I'm like, that looks horrific and awesome. If you know me, by age 8, I've already been watching Nightmare on Elm Street movies, Aliens, Poltergeist. I was a horror fanatic at 8 years old. I was a little Tommy Jarvis when I was a kid. I still am. But this isn't about Friday the 13th. This is about Phantasm 2. So let's begin at the beginning. At the beginning, we have some new mysterious girl talking about dreams that she had. Ironically, the dreams that she had were of the first movie. A good way to recap the movie is by having a new character talk about it in a dream. She knew all about the names Michael and Jody and Reggie, and she kind of took us through the last part, or the end of the first movie, and it kind of works. What's really cool is it has footage in there that's not from that they didn't use in the first movie. After the tall man's reappearance in his dream, there's a whole thing where the evil Jawas attack, and Reggie and Michael basically blow up Michael's house with a gas fireplace and the stove because of gas, and they hightail it out of there. And this is all told by this new character, Liz, and that's how the movie begins. Fast forwarding 8 years later, Mike, now played by actor James LeGros. I don't know if it's that European sounding of a name. I've heard it in documentaries as just James LeGros. So
James LeGros.
James LeGros. He's the new Michael. Apparently, the original actor didn't fit the bill for part 2, which is strange because it is still directed by Don Coscarelli, and he comes back for later installments. Whatever. This is Phantasm 2. This is the sequel. Part 2s are usually not the best sometimes. Usually they wait for the part 3s to be not the best. Where was I? So James LeGros, he tell me what it is. Tell me what it is, Sphere. Wait, I got it this time. Watch. Damn. Uh, he wakes up in a hospital bed. You find out he's been locked away in a mental hospital because he was convinced by basically just Reggie that everything that happened was a dream. Even though Reggie was there. I don't know. It's very convoluted there, but he's in front of, I guess, the main doctor, and he's basically telling him what he wants to hear just so he can get released. And he does get released. And immediately that night, he goes back to the graveyard. He has to check for empty graves because that's what the tall man was doing. He was stealing people, putting them through this little this tuning fork portal and his world to crush them into the size of the evil Jawas and bringing them back. I didn't mean to spoil that from the last movie, but if you're watching this, then you might have gotten watched the first movie. I don't know. Who knows? But that's what happens with the graves that he's taking, his nefarious reasons that I said in the last episode. So he's digging up graves, and Reggie catches up with him. He basically talks him into stopping and going back to his house, Reggie's house, because Michael's is destroyed. Reggie has his wife, his daughter, and I think his mother living with him. I think he mentions that really quickly. If it's one of those blink and you'll miss it moments, because I blinked and I missed it when they were driving up to Reggie's house. Mike hears a message from the tall man, kind of like a revenge type of thing, and he makes Reggie stop the car as soon as his house explodes in front of him. Tall man basically blow up his house with Reggie's family inside, the family that I didn't know existed because I wasn't really paying attention to the dialogue. I was making notes for this, and I should have made that note because that's kind of important, because it gives Reggie the drive to go find this man and take him out for good. And suddenly Phantasm 2 becomes a road movie. And on their first stop, they like to do an homage maybe, but it's a scene straight out of the Evil Dead movies. I mean, it would be perfect for a Sam Raimi movie. They break into a hardware store and they start crafting weapons. Now, I forgot to mention in the first movie that Michael was he was a gearhead. He liked working on cars, and he liked making improvised gadgets. Well, at least he made one. In the first movie, he was locked in his room by Jody, and he took a hammer. This is a hammer. I'm good at miming. I'm not really good at miming. He took a hammer, and then he put a ball bearing on the end and put a shotgun shell on it. He basically created a shotgun hammer to blow the lock off of his door, and it worked. So this is done tenfold in this movie. It's really awesome, and it's what stays throughout the series of the movie. Jody's dead. By the way, Jody's dead. I don't know if I put that in the first one. I'm just gonna redo the first one. I'm not. Michael makes a 3-barrel flamethrower out of butane torches that never seems to run out and always seems to blow just enough fire throughout the whole movie. But Reggie makes his Excalibur. Reggie takes 2 double-barrel shotguns and puts them together, and he saws them off to make this pointed 4-barrel shotgun that's pretty damn awesome. And it's kind of iconic. It's almost as iconic as this. It's iconic for the good guys, and it's something that just only gets used once in this movie. It's sad. But also, Reggie finds a chainsaw. It's just a person-sized chainsaw. It's his favorite thing in the world. They buy more stuff to use in more Home Alone style traps and things later on in the movie. And they make their stuff. They make their two main weapons, and they hightail it out of there on back on the road. Continuing this road trip, they make stops to graveyards that have empty caskets in it, and the tall man's MO, and other supernatural traps. But in one funeral home, Mike finds a naked woman on an embalming table. She's already had the scars from the autopsy and everything. He, Michael, not the dead woman. Michael goes out of the room to tell Reggie what he saw. He comes back and the table's empty. Also in this scene, he finds Liz tied up and has her mouth gagged. Not gagged, but there's like bandages all over her mouth. And she's wearing this black shroud, and he pulls back the shroud, and there's this weird, almost Freddy Krueger-like looking puppet creature coming out of her back. And basically challenging Mike to find him in the town of Paragord, Oregon. So they burn the hell out of that thing, and they hightail it to Paragord. Now, while they are driving and having a good time, Liz, the mysterious girl that I've been talking about, is having a funeral for her grandfather in Paragord, Oregon. And she feels like there is something wrong during this funeral. I wonder what it could be. She starts to walk around the mausoleum, and once again, they do the grab on the shoulder, and Tall Man has to say something funeral-wise. It's not as iconic as the funeral's about to begin, sir. But it's just another good, cool throwback to the original movie. This time, she has a little pin on her jacket. That's the thing that they wear. Jacket. And she stabs him in the finger and runs off. In this creepy way, he takes out the pin. It's dripping with his yellow blood, and he tastes it. You know, like what killers do. They always like to taste their own blood when they're attacked. I still have the pin in my hand. It's not a real pin. That night, Liz's grandmother was taken by her grandfather, who was embalmed by the Tall Man, who now does his bidding as a ghoul type creature, whatever. She takes him, and the next morning she finds out her grandmother's bedroom is empty, and the pin from earlier, with the yellow blood on it, is stuck into the bedside table. And then there's a voice, it says, "Come and get her," or something like that. I don't remember offhand. Back in the car, it's daytime. Michael's just driving along. Well, he's in the passenger seat, but they're driving along, and he sees this hitchhiker girl who looks a lot like the dead body he saw the night before. It surprises him, and it jolts him awake because he was dreaming. Of course, lots of things about this franchise is that you don't know if they're dreaming or real. And as soon as he tells Reggie that he saw the girl, she actually pops up from behind, and she's real. And turns out Reggie picked her up earlier while he was asleep. She introduces herself as Alchemy, or Kimmy for short. Obviously, her parents weren't very nice to her. She's played by Samantha Phillips. Before she started her softcore adult movie career, also she was with Penthouse for a while. But it's just a regular role that she's playing. She plays basically Reggie's love interest, and she's pretty funny about it. She's a cool character through this movie. Once they get to Paragord, Mike and Reggie discover the place the Tall Man is using for his new lair, his new place of operations. they go in right away. Inside, Mike finds Liz and recognizes her from her dreams, and this is strange too. They instantly fall in love. It's almost like there's a piece of the movie missing where they knew each other closer when they were in their dream state, but it's just more implied because they meet each other. They're like, "Hey, you're from my dream. You're from my dream," and they're automatically kissing. Whatever. We also get to witness the local priest getting silver deathballed to the face. Haha! Silver deathball to the face. Uh, by now we know the tall man knows Mike is back in his world. Aha! I caught it that time. One of these days I'll get graphics going for that. It's over here now. Graphics. After escaping the tall man, they all go to a house. They barricade it up, set up traps, Home Alone style. They just make sure everything is closed off and safe. And once they do, Mike and Liz go to bed in one room, and Reggie gets busy with Kimmy. And this, by far, is one of the best scenes in the whole franchise. At least funny. Reggie does not expect how rough Kimmy is in bed, and she's just moving him around and smushing his face, and he's got this look on his face like, what the hell is going on? Oppositely, Mike and Liz are just lying next to each other, talking in their telepathy, because that's what they do, because they're dreaming. It's all about dreams. They kind of get a little bit physical until one of the traps goes off, and Mike and Reggie go downstairs to check out what happened. They find out that one of the grenades blew up some sort of animal, and Reggie has a breakdown, saying that, we're too. What did he say? He said, "You're a 19-year-old kid, and I'm an ice cream man. What are the odds of us succeeding in this?" And as they start to break down, Liz screams upstairs. They go upstairs and notice that she has been taken, obviously, by the tall man. So they get back into their hero saves the day mentality and go to confront the tall man once and for all. One thing I forgot to mention, earlier in the movie, at the first mausoleum, they found one of the new type of characters in the movie, one of the new ghouls for the tall man's bidding. It's a character called a graver. They're just these people in jumpsuits and dirty gas masks, and they're the ones digging up the graves. And they're kind of cool characters, or kind of cool looking characters. They're just regular people under his command. They're not evil Jawas. They're normal sized people with gas masks and these dark jumpsuits, and usually they have shovels because they're grave diggers. Now the final act of the movie is storming the mausoleum. More evil Jawa action, more flying death balls, including a new gold colored one that has also not just the drill and spikes, but it also has a buzzsaw and a red death laser that it's used to kill a rat. It can also scan the room. I'm not being evil. The laser widens, so scans the room. There's also this other mortician doing the bidding of the tall man. I guess he's another ghoul under his spell, but he's just this tallish mortician dude that discovers Mike and Liz once they're back together again. And the tall man unleashes his three death balls. 1, 2, and gold. And this poor guy, every time they dodge or fight off one of these death balls, it goes after this mortician dude. He loses a hand. The gold one just totally wrecks him. I almost felt bad for the guy. And but you know, he still never gave up on trying to go after Mike and stuff. So I guess he's not worth feeling bad for. Also, while this is happening, Reggie has an encounter with a Graver. He has to fight one off, and a chainsaw duel ensues, and it's damn epic, as epic as Phantasm 2 can get. Reggie and the chainsaw guy have a back and forth, especially with the differing sizes of their chainsaws. But it also shows Reggie being more of the Ash character that I mentioned before, where he's a goofy, doofy idiot type character that when it gets down to the nitty gritty, he comes through. They end up once again finding the tuning fork room that leads to the tall man's planet. And once again, Mike gets mostly sucked in, but this time Reggie gets sucked in as well. They show more of the planet at this time. They show the evil Jawas without their Jawa cloaks, and they're these disgusting little gooey creatures coming out of the barrels. Eventually, you know, Mike climbs over Reggie to get out and then pulls him out. It's a very daunting scene that doesn't really have much peril, because just one of these evil Jawas, freshly born, was coming after Reggie, and I don't know what it was going to do if it actually reached him, because it was just this like crawling, gooey creature that could barely move. But you know, I'd probably be scared of it as well. Once they pull themselves out of the portal, they take care of the tall man in a very impressive and gory fashion. It's pretty impressive, even without the blatant foreshadowing of how they do it. This final fight with the tall man also showed off how otherworldly he really is. He's got some strange things going on with his body and stuff. But it's really cool. I really like how they took him out this time. And once he's taken care of, they use the homemade flamethrower and burn the place down to the ground. And as soon as they don't know where else to go, Kimmy and a hearse, in the tall man's hearse, pulls up, and they get in the car, and they've finally taken care of the tall man, and they all live happily ever after. Or do they?
I've been thinking about us.
It's only a dream.
No, it's not.
Phantasm 2 took what made the original movie interesting and different, and basically made a by-the-numbers sequel that some studio executives said, we want another one. And poor Don Coscarelli thought he was done with the story. He liked the way the first one ended. Obviously, he had some more ideas, but at least he got it finished, right? Join me for my review of Phantasm 3. Pretty soon, within the next few days. And also don't forget to check out my Elm Street reviews. I'm doing the whole series for that too. It's in this playlist, or you can just look it up on our channel. We're taking this horror train all the way to Halloween. Remember, like, share, and subscribe. And also don't miss out on our podcast on Spotify. It's Cinemadness podcast. Type that in. This is how you type on your phone. Type that in. I don't know. There's a desktop for Spotify. Anyway, type it in. You'll find it. We'll be there. And I'll see you next time, either for one of the Elm Street movies or Phantasm 3. 2, 3, 3. This is 3. We're on 2 now. All right. Bye.